Brian VANDUYN here, for those of you that don't know me. In today's little live stream, I just kind of wanted to touch base on something that has kept me in business for these, 5 years, going on 6 years. And that's cash flow. That good old cash flow, right? And, this isn't something you can really teach. You either got it or you don't. Like, you either understand the concept or you don't understand it. But I want to talk about it a little bit. Yeah, what's up, Blake? What's up, buddy? So, there's times in business where you're going to work a ton of hours and you're going to make a lot of money, and then there's times when you're not going to work at all and you're not going to make any money, right? So let me just kind of give you an example of that. So this last summer, like until about December, we worked non-stop till December. We worked almost every day. I probably could have worked on Christmas if I wanted to this last year, 2022, right? January, we worked, right? No, January was kind of a slow month this year for us. I think we worked like 2, maybe 3 weeks. But February, we didn't work a single day in February. And then, actually, we probably worked like 2 or 3 days. I don't really remember off the top of my head. I'm just kind of telling you how it goes, right? But I can tell you, I haven't worked in like 2 weeks. Today's the first day I've been working in like all of April so far. Other than, maybe I hauled 1 load of rock for a buddy or something, right? But think about it like this. 2 weeks, no work, right? So I get paid every 30 days after I do the work. So net 30, right? So think about it like this. You're working for a month, all good, right? And then you have a whole month off, right? And then, so you work that whole month, and as you stop working, right, all this money starts coming in, right? And you're like, oh, yeah, we're good, we're golden, right? And then next thing you know, like, you're like, okay, then the money stops coming in, and then because you didn't work that whole next month, you got a whole month of no money coming in, right? And then you're like, oh yeah, I didn't work. That's why I have no money coming in. So like having a cash flow or some sort of, a lot of people in business have what I like to call a slush fund, right? Because it slushes in and it slushes around and then it goes out. You kind of try and keep it even, right? You try and keep like a minimum balance in there, for just random stuff that comes up, and for, slow months and that type of stuff. And in the dump trucking world, let me take these coats off. It's starting to warm up. In the summer months, obviously, you're going to be doing more work. So your bank account should be bigger, right? And then you try and save a lot of that because in wintertime, you're not going to be working as much. That's just the way dump trucking goes, right? And so, like with one truck, me personally, I feel very comfortable when I got 50 to 70 grand in the bank, just sitting there with one truck. As soon as my money gets down to like 20,000, 15,000, that's like we're getting a little slim on money. We better go search for some work, right? A lot of guys, they don't have these slush funds that are as big, right? And what they do is they have, maybe a line of credit or a credit card with the bank that they can just have, that ability. If something comes up, they'll put it on their credit card or they'll put it on their line of credit. And they know, that when the work comes back in, because eventually the work always comes back, right? Slow times only last for a certain, amount of time before they, go away. And then they'll pay that back off, right? So they'll keep a revolving amount of debt, basically. Instead of having, their own money sitting there, they'll have revolving debt, which, I'm not the biggest fan of that because the bank charges you, right? So it's kind of hard to explain which one is better, right? Because, okay, so if you have revolving debt, you're using more of your capital as like working capital. So like, for instance, let me just give you kind of an example, right? If I have $50,000, right, and I have a line of credit of $50,000, that's a total amount of $100,000, right? A lot of guys will take their $50,000 and they'll say, okay, we're going to take this $50,000 that we have and we're going to invest it into a piece of machinery and it's going to make money, right? So because that $50,000 is making money, we can pay this little bit of interest that we're going to accrue because all of our cash is tied up in an investment. But it's making money, so it justifies paying the interest, right? But the problem with that is like I was telling you, if the work stops and the work dies off, you have to have enough debt or credit to float it out before you start getting paid again, right? And in some states, it's harder than others. In some states, it's easier. Like I have a lot of buddies in Ohio, and they get paid every week. In Washington, we don't get paid every week. We get paid net 30, which means you do the work, and then a month later, if you're lucky, a month later, you get paid, right? A lot of times, it drags out to 45 days, 60 days, 90 days. I've had bills that are, that haven't been paid in almost 100 days sometimes. So almost 1/3 of a year, I did the work 1/3 of a year ago, and I still haven't gotten paid for it, right? Now, some guys charge interest when that happens. I don't really charge interest, because I'm of the mindset, I know how business works. Cash flow is, hard for a lot of businesses. So they have to just kind of play it as they go, right? And you just know they're going to pay you, but it's just going to take longer sometimes, right? So they're going to pay you. It's going to take a long time for them to pay you because they're trying to keep their debt as low as possible because this is the way most businesses run. It's sad to say that, but that's the way it is. Most businesses run their business on a revolving line of debt. That's why they don't pay you when it's exactly due. It's because they literally don't have the cash flow. They're trying to keep their debt low, so they're not accruing a whole bunch of interest on that debt, but they have, a lot of these companies have the work to pay for it, the stuff that they're having you do. They just don't have the money at that point, right? Because a lot of companies overextend themselves. Okay, and then there's the second option, which is the option that I typically do in my personal business. And that's where I don't use my line of credit. I don't use my credit card. I just have a bank account full of cash just sitting there, right? And so the downside to this is you have all this cash just sitting there that you can't really make money with, right? Like, let me give you an example. Like, so the first model I told you is you have $50,000 invested into a piece of equipment, and it's making money to pay for that interest, right? And then the second option is you have your $50,000, instead of having it invested into a piece of machinery that's making money, you have it just sitting in the bank, right? Which means it's not making any money, basically. Like, the interest they pay you is nothing. So you're basically no money. But the nice thing about doing it this way is if something major happens, not only do you have your $50,000 sitting there in case of an emergency, but you have the additional 50 grand that the bank's going to give you. So that's $100,000 instead of $50,000, right? So you have to just pay for it, whatever, you know. So you end up paying no interest to the bank, right? Because you don't have a revolving line of debt. And the nice thing also about doing it that way is, like, if the work stops, guess what? You're not that stressed, because you're like, well, I got this big mountain of money sitting here. You know, that's what it's for. You know, we all know there's going to be slow times and fast times. So, I mean, those are the two ways to run the business, right? And this is a lot of, it's basically like a cash flow, right? How does your business cash flow? And so my preferred method is to have the money sitting there. You know, a lot of other people, they like to have that money invested. That way it's just not sitting there just kind of wasting time, you know. But the downside is if something big comes up and you don't have the credit or the workflow to pay that back, you're going to end up selling some stuff. You know, and that's, a lot of people have that mindset, well, you know, if the emergency is big enough, I'll just sell something. You know, because in business, everything is for sale. Like, let's just be honest here. When you run your business, everything you own is for sale for the right price. You know, and the right price may be, if there's an emergency big enough, that 120 is going, or that 330 is going, or that dozer's going, or the old dump truck's going. You know, at the end of the day, everything is for sale, you know, when it comes to running a business, if you want to stay in business, you know. And a lot of these companies, the companies that have been around a long time, they know that. That's why they don't have the first truck that they ever bought. You know, if you go to all these mega corporations, Miles, Corliss, you know, whatever the company may be, they don't have the first truck they bought. You know why? Because they learned that lesson early on in business, just like everybody else that is successful for a very, very long time. When it comes down to it, if you need to sell something to stay in business, you got to sell something. That's just, it is what it is, you know. And business is about numbers, right? It's not about emotional attachments. Justin tried to tell me this, you know, with the old truck. You know, Brian, you got to sell that old truck. It's an emotional attachment. We're running businesses here. It's all about numbers. It's not about emotional crap. And he's right. You know, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, you're running a business to make money. You're running a business, you know, to provide, well, at least I am, to provide a future for my kids and my family, right? And you got to ask yourself at the end of the day, do you want to have a $20,000 yard ornament? Is it really worth it that much to have a $20,000 yard ornament? Because, you know, like my old dump truck that I bought, sure, I could have ran the thing 5 more years, 10 more years, possibly. The one of the things that I was running into is if I want to grow my business past 3 trucks in Washington, I believe the law states if you own more than 3 trucks, they got to be 2007 or newer or something like that. I could be wrong. I thought that law passed, or maybe I'm confusing it with something that almost passed. But that's the way the business. There's 2 brake shoes that sit, 2 semi-drum brake shoes that sitting on the freeway. Like, what the heck? They were like wafers. They were so thin. I wonder how those fell out. That's weird. So you got to ask yourself, you know, at the end of the day, what's the reason for staying in business? You know, a lot of times, you know, you're doing well enough that it doesn't really matter. Like, for instance, I didn't really have to sell my old truck. I could have just left it as a $20,000 yard ornament. But I'm that type of person that I'm not that physically attached to equipment and tools. You know, I understand it's a means to a goal, right? And that's what equipment really is. It's a means to a goal. You know, financial stability for your family. That's what the means to the goal is for me. You know, somebody else may feel completely different. I know people that they won't sell their first truck, you know, and typically speaking, the people that don't sell their first truck are people that did not start the business. Typically, the one that starts the business and that, you know, grinded from day one, those people are usually not the type of person that saves their first piece of equipment. You know, usually it's the kids of the, you know, the first owner. Like, they have more of a physical attachment, right? Number one, because they didn't start from scratch. They didn't have to build it up, right? And so they like to hold on to things a little more, you know, than maybe the first guy. And that's one of the lessons that, you know, guys like myself, you know, if our children are ever going to take control of our business, they got to learn you cannot have emotional attachments to your equipment because it's a means to an end. You know? We can enjoy these pieces of equipment as long as we can. But at the end of the day, Grandpa needs brain surgery. The truck's got to be sold. You know? It is what it is. Like, you know, some things just require extreme measures, you know? And, you know, me personally, I would have loved to have kept my first dump truck. And I still, you know, I think back on it almost every day I drive. Like, man, should I have kept it? You know? And I do miss my old dump truck. There's no doubt about that. No doubt in my mind. But the way I justified it to myself was, you know, I've done hundreds of videos, almost thousands, with that dump truck in the videos. So if I really want to go back and reminisce, I can go back and watch my videos or look at the pictures. And I do that all the time, you know. But anyways, that's just the little live stream I wanted to talk to you guys about. Let me see if I got any comments on here while I'm sitting in rush hour. If I had all your money, I'd never work. Heck, over here, most guys aren't working from January to May. Whew! That's tough. I don't know how you do it. If I had a guy try and pay me net 30 and I feel like I'm never going to see it. You do feel that way, Blake. I feel that way all the time. Thank God I get paid every week here in NC. Yeah, I mean, getting paid every week is definitely a blessing. And it definitely helps the cash flow, you know. But I will say getting net 30 is good sometimes because, you know, you be working, you got some money coming in, and then you have a little dry spell, and the money still comes in. So it's kind of like, I don't know how to really explain it, but, you know, there's kind of an aftershock. Like, it's almost like an earthquake that happens after, you know, because you're expecting nothing, and then all of a sudden, boom, a check comes in. You're like, whoa, yeah, buddy, you know. So it is kind of nice. And if things do get tight, you can call somebody up who's way overdue and be like, hey, bro, I know I'm being patient with you, but I got to get paid, you know. And it's usually pretty quick, you know. So that's pretty nice, you know. Of course, it's not nice if, you know, you're getting really tied up on things and they're like, oh, I still can't pay you, man. It's like, what? Like, dude, I need to get paid. I got bills coming in, you know. So, you know, the cash flow is very tricky in business. You know, it's a very tricky thing. And, you know, that's one of the blessings of being an employee. You get paid every 2 weeks or every week, you know, and you never really got to think about it, you know. As an employee, I never imagined that one of my employers wasn't going to pay me when they were supposed to, you know, because there's big ramifications for that, you know, as an employee. You can sue the daylights out of an employer if they don't pay you on time, right? And everybody knows that. But as an employer and as a company, the ramifications are not really there, right? The security is not really there because you could try and sue a company or you could try and do a lien on a project and they still may never pay you. Like I had a customer that I was good friends with them for the longest time, worked for him every single day almost for 2 years, 3 years straight. And then the guy had some sort of, you know, shift, and I sent him an invoice and he's like, we already paid that. And I'm like, no, you didn't, dude. And I had messed up on my books where I had recorded a payment for moving a machine one way, right? But I didn't get paid for moving it back. So he still owed me. I just recorded it wrong in my books. There was a miscommunication between me and my wife, right? So we had gotten paid for one movement of the machine, but we didn't get paid for the movement back. And the guy's like, I paid you. And I'm like, dude, no, you didn't pay me. Like, there should be 2 payments of this amount. And I only got 1, right? And then I went in, I figured it out. Oh, we recorded this on the wrong ,1, but you still owe me $600 for the move. well, that's not my fault. You did this wrong. And I'm like, dude, does it really matter? You still owe me the money. You know you owe me the money. And then he never, he just totally, switched and didn't want to pay his bills, I totally forgot where I was going with that, but it happens, So, anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Hope you guys are having a good week. We are almost going to be moved into our house really quick here. We are so close to moving into our house. Like, literally, like, this far away. We get our refrigerator delivered on the 15th, right? So that's this Saturday, I think. Maybe this Saturday. We're working on the block skirting right now. I got people there working on that. I finished all the electricity. It's all done. The septic is all wired. It's just got to be, the as-built has got to be drawn, and then that's good to go. And then also the gutters are getting installed today. The thermostat inside the house is getting turned on today, so we should have heat. We are this close, man. I cannot tell you how excited I am for finally getting into our house after 2.5 years of being in a camper, right? And here's what I've been trying to tell you guys. Like this, the sacrifices that you make, they will pay off. They will pay off, right? And the crazy thing is, here's the crazy thing, right? We've been living in that camper for 2.5 years, right? That piece of property with our house on it will be valued at $600,000, 600 grand, right? And we will only owe 200,000 on it. And that is because of the sacrifices my wife, myself, and my kids have made to live in the camper and pay cash as we go, right? That is the reward of the sacrifice. Because now look at it this way. We could have just got approved for this jumbo mortgage, right? And then paid companies to come in, clear the land, build the road, do the well, do the septic, do all the power, do all the water, do all this stuff. We could have paid thousands and thousands of more dollars and just put that on a loan, right? We would have been paying full price for that stuff. Number one, because I wouldn't have been doing it, right? And then on top of that, we would have been paying, 6% interest for 30 years on that full price. That's what a lot of you guys don't realize. When you take the shortcut and you get all the nice things right away, like you just say, you know what? I don't want to do all this. I just want to sign the paperwork in the bank and just sign it away and just be done with it and let me move in now. You are literally paying full price for all those things. And then on top of that, not only are you paying full price, you are paying interest on that full price for 30 years. Because I know 99% of you guys are not doing a 15-year mortgage, So think about that. All that stuff I did, like I literally paid cash for the driveway. I did the whole driveway myself. I cleared it. I brought in all the rock. That was like 40 grand. And that was my cost to do the driveway. Half a mile long driveway. My cost was like 40 grand, right? If I would have paid somebody to do that road, whoo, dude, I don't even know what it would have cost. Probably like 80, 60 to 80, a half a mile long. Oh man, dude, that, yeah. And they would have had to, you know, the bio, they would have had to pay the biologist to come out just like I did. They would have upcharged me for that. And then check this out. And then the power, I installed all the power myself, right? 15 grand to go from my neighbor's transformer to my transformer. I had to buy my own transformer. And then another 10,000, or no, maybe it was like, I think it was 6,000, 6 or 7,000 to go from my transformer to my house. And then another 6,000 to go from my meter base to my shop, and then another 6,000 to go from the meter base to the house, right? I would have paid at least 40,000 for all the electricity, right? And then check this out. The well that I put in, I helped do the work. I paid cash for it. Cost me $13,000. I had quotes from guys for 30 grand. $30,000. Double the price. Literally double the price. But I was there. I installed all the electricity for my pump myself. Right? What the heck is this guy? Oh, there it is. Right up there. Okay. I cut some of the well casings. I didn't do any welding of the casings, but I helped the guy friggin' pull out the sludge or whatever it was called, the slurry. Dude, I was there helping the guy, right? And that's why I got that cash price of $13,000. Imagine this. A lot of you guys buy your house, you're paying that full $30,000 price, and then on top of that, you're paying 6% interest on your mortgage, which includes that price. So you're paying 6% on $30,000 over 30 years. Yeah, how are you going to get rich doing that? Honestly, how are you going to get rich doing that? You're going to get what you want right away, right? The nice thing about that is if you do go that route, it will allow you to work. And I mean just work. I'm not sure if they want me over here or where. So I'm going to have to go ahead and end the live stream so I can go over here and talk to these guys. Figure out where they want this rock. But thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll catch you on the next